Howdy, boys. UFC Fight Night Hernandez versus Pereira just ended, and overall, it was an alright card. A couple of really good fights, a couple of really shitty fights. So, I guess I can only complain as much as I can praise. But let's get into it. First fight of the night, Austin Lane versus Rebellis Despain. This was fucking terrible. Awful fight. When they were on the feet, it was super tepid striking, very hesitant. Austin Lane didn't want to get KO'd and was just looking for a takedown. And Rebellis Despain didn't want to get taken down and was not really willing to throw. His stance is so weird and just bad. It's hard to watch, man. It's awful. It's like something in between Taekwondo and karate, but not really either of them. His hands are just all over the place. He's super fucking flat-footed, and he's just not rooted at all. A gust of wind could blow him over and knock him down. The first strike in the fight, in the first round, they both threw leg kicks, and Rebellis just kind of toppled over. He's maybe improved 1% on his grappling, just ever so slightly, to keep himself just the bare minimum of safe. When they're on the ground, all Rebellis did was just hold himself in guard, or hold Lane in guard. And Lane, Jesus Christ, he has some of the worst ground and pound and submission offense I've ever seen. Absolutely abysmal. Would never watch this fight again. Couldn't pay me to watch this shit. Second fight on the card, Melissa Martinez versus Alice Ardeline. This is a pretty good fight overall, honestly. It was 95% striking, and it actually looked like a proper strawweight fight where both girls had some snappy shots and were very quick. Melissa herself was extremely quick. Her strikes were fast, and her footwork was fucking amazing, honestly. Even though Ardeline was able to head her off often, she still looked really good with her footwork. And I chose against her because she lost to Elise Reed, and I can't pick you if you're losing to Elise Reed. But she looks improved. Very diverse striking. Snappy and quick. And she kind of got robbed of a TKO in the third round. She landed a teep to the solar plexus and then followed up with 2 hooks to the head. And Keith Peterson thought it was a groin strike, and it clearly was not on the replay, and he just let it go on, and it went the distance. Kind of a bullshit call there, but I don't know if he would have been able to stop it during the timeout. I can't remember if that's a legal thing to do for the referees, but nonetheless, she looked really good throughout the fight. And maybe that Elise Reed loss was just kind of a bad night or a little fluke for her. Third fight on the card, Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. And this is what I get for shitting on Elise Reed. She absolutely dominated this fight from start to finish, landing at will. Penne looked her age. She looked 41 years old. She was very slow, had no oomph on her shots. Her takedowns were abysmal. Strength in the clinch wasn't there. And she kept lunging in with her head down on every shot she threw and her takedown attempts. It was completely just Elise Reed's fight. It was just a showcase for her. Not much else to say. Penne should retire. She doesn't really have much else to offer to the sport. Looked really washed. Elise looks improved. And yep, that's all I got for that one. Fourth fight on the card, Jocelyn Edwards versus Tamirez Vidal. This was a fucking clinic for Jocelyn Edwards. As I predicted, she was better than Tamirez Vidal in every aspect of the fight. The striking, the grappling, the wrestling. Just complete domination, honestly. No 10-8 rounds, but Tamirez didn't stand a fucking chance. The only shot she had was some fluke KO or some bullshit submission. And she did go for a bullshit submission in round 3. She went for a stupid, silly, fucking heel hook. I don't know why people are still trying fucking heel hooks, man. It's retarded. There's no sense in it. She went for the heel hook, lost it. Jocelyn got the back, started landing some clean, heavy ground and pound, cinched in her rear naked, got a third round sub. Absolute standout performance for Jocelyn Edwards. Fifth fight on the card, Gene Matsumoto versus Brad Katona. This was a really fun fight. Very back and forth. Both guys were landing big, meaty hooks on each other. They're both headhunting, too. I wish they would have mixed it up more to the body. In the third round, they did. Gene landed a body kick that you could tell it hurt Brad, and he had to kind of start shelling up a little bit and shot for a takedown soon after that. Katona's takedown defense was fucking exceptional in this fight. Even when Gene managed to really disguise the takedown and get one with very little tell on it, Brad stuffed it nearly immediately. I honestly think Gene could have kind of abandoned the takedown after a point. It just seemed to be draining him more than actually being too efficient, because there was just no way he was getting Katona down. He did get him down in the third round for like 2 seconds. Katona took a knee and shot back up immediately. But yeah, his takedown defense looked incredible. Both of their boxing both looked really good. They could work on their defense. They ate a good deal of shots. Neither guy had too good of head movement, especially Katona. And I definitely have earned some more respect for Brad. I was kind of shitting on him in the predictions, but he was willing to scrap in this one. Overall, really good fight. Enjoyed it a lot. Probably the best fight on the prelims. Sixth fight on the card, the headliner of the prelims, Mateus Nicolau versus Asu Almabayev. Terrible fight, super low volume, tepid range striking, and uneventful grappling. This flyweight fight had the pace and volume of a heavyweight fight. I figured that Asu would be able to work Nicolau and just outpace him in general, but that did not happen. They threw a combined 36 strikes in round 1 and landed 8. Absolutely pathetic. As I did predict, though, Mateus had great takedown defense. Came really close in round 2 to a guillotine. Ended up pantsing Asu, but Asu got out of it and he rolled to his side, loosened the grip, and then they resumed their tepid range striking. In round 3, early on, Asu threw an uppercut, landed decent, and then a hook while Mateus was dipping down, connected behind the head, stumbled him, and he fell to the ground. And the rest of the fight was on the ground for round 3. Super boring, kind of pathetic and shitty ground and pound from Asu. Mateus never seemed in danger, and he kept going for fucking leg locks on Asu, as if he was going to get that shit. Boring, bad fight overall. Honestly, I think they both lost stock for that shit. Seventh fight and the opener of the main card, Darren Elkins versus Daniel Pineda. This was your classic battle of crafty vets. An absolute war. Crazy pace they push. I'm surprised to see Darren Elkins still looking as good as he does at his age and how much damage he has taken himself. And to talk about damage, he inflicted quite a bit onto Daniel Pineda with some hellish elbows at the end of round 2. Daniel was going all over the place looking for guillotines, flopping around like a fish out of water. Never managed to get them. Elkins always scrambled out of them. And the scrambles were fucking incredible in this fight. The grappling was the grappling was a majority of the fight, but it was honestly the most fun part about the fight. The striking on the feet was all right. Really, the whole fight was sloppy, but very fun. But the grappling is where it shined. Fucking Nicolau and Almabayev could have took some hints and tips from this fight. Eighth fight on the card, Jake Hadley versus Cameron Smotherman. This was a pretty good technical striking match for the most part. Very little grappling occurred. And I didn't even know that Cameron stepped in on short notice, replacing Brady Heiston, until the fight was actually starting. I guess I didn't see it on any Instagram or anything. It just never popped up for me. And I'm pretty sure that was his debut, but I don't think I have ever seen him before. Okay, I'm looking at his record now. He had fought on the Contender Series in 2023 and lost to Gregorio. So yeah, I had never seen this kid before. This guy. Fuck, Dana's got me saying kid. Makes me sound like an asshole. But I'd never seen him before. And he looked really good. He just completely out-techniqued Hadley, landing kind of at will at times. And yeah, just he looked so technical in there. He was mixing it up to the body very well. He didn't have a ton of pop on his shots, but it was enough to keep Hadley respectful of his shot selection. And in round 2, Hadley landed a ridiculously obvious eye poke. It looked very intentional. Managed to hit both eyes, and Tognoni took a point. And I think he should have. It was very deserving. And that pretty much sealed the deal for the fight. There was no way Hadley was coming back from that, because it didn't seem likely or possible at all for him to get a finish, because he was just a step behind Cameron in the striking. He tried to implement some grappling after the point deduction, but nothing came of it. Really good showing for Cameron. 9th fight on the card, Charles Johnson and Sumudarji. This was a fucking incredible fight. Really high IQ, slick shit. Great cardio from both guys. They were pushing a hell of a pace. Round 1 was really equal. I couldn't really choose who won that. I guess I'd lean more towards Charles. Round 2, Sumudarji got out of position, I think after throwing a right hook. Or I might be mixing that up, but he got really out of position, and then Charles blitzed forward and caught him clean with his own right hook. Stumbled him. Sumudarji composed himself and was throwing back, but eventually Charles caught him up against the cage, and he landed a very similar uppercut to the one that he put Joshua Van down with. Charles Johnson's uppercut are fucking incredible. But anyways, he lands that good elbow up against the cage, kind of crumbles him and starts following up, and Sumudarji just recovers and ends up latching a really nice triangle. Close to being in, tries to switch it to an armbar. Johnson scrambles and ends up getting out of it. So I definitely give round 2 to Charles, because he nearly finished him to strikes, even though Sumudarji's submission was nice. It wasn't as close as Johnson was to finishing the fight. And then the third round was kind of like the first, back and forth, just absolute fucking awesomeness. I don't know how to fucking word it other than that. Just a fucking good fight. It's kind of very similar to, or I guess similar but opposite to the Darren Elkins and Daniel Pineda fight, where that was kind of low level and sloppy, but really fun. This was high level and also very fun. Great fight. Charles Johnson gets it done by decision. Both these guys have quite the potential in flyweight. And once again, fucking Asu Amabayev and Mateus Nicolau should take notes. This is how you have a banger of a fight, not that absolute snooze fest shit show that they put on. In the co-main event, we had Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. This fight was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting more of a banger. At times, honestly, it was quite one-sided. Round 1, Kyler got an early takedown and remained on top for 3 or 4 minutes. But he didn't do anything with it. He looked for some submissions, but Rob was wary of them, never got close to even starting one, and didn't really land any ground and pound. And at the last minute, when Rob did get up, he started landing some pretty good shots. And honestly, I gave him round 1. I think Rob took every round in this fight. Round 2, Kyler looked a lot more tired than Rob, and in round 3, it seemed like the grappling diminished Kyler more than he expected. Because from my memory, he doesn't grapple nearly as much as he tried to in this fight, in which I can understand that. Recently, Rob has been exposed to not have the best grappling, but it definitely slowed Kyler down. Rob started landing good shots, good combos, ripping to the body, mixing up really well. I think he had almost, not even numbers. I'm looking at the score wrong. I was seeing total and significant strikes. I thought he had equal numbers on head and body shots. But no, he was landing good shots to the body and good combos to the head. Kyler really didn't have much answers on the feet. The only way out, it seemed, for him was trying to get control time to win the fight, and Rob had pretty good takedown defense at times. He made it difficult for Kyler, but he still was able to get 4 or 5 takedowns. And for whatever reason, at some point, Rob shot his own takedown. The only reason I could see for that was maybe he was trying to maybe he caught on to the fact that the grappling was slowing Kyler down, so he figured he'd mix it in. But overall, he schooled another one of these young dudes. He didn't. I wouldn't say fraud checked him, and I know people are gonna say that, but he definitely showed him he's not at the level to compete at the top of the division yet. Maybe he'll never get there, because I don't know, man. If you're getting just beat up like that from Rob Font, maybe you won't get to the top 5. And he's 29. He's not exactly young, but he still has time to improve to get to the top. But I just don't see it happening. In the main event, Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. Goddamn, this was a beatdown. Absolute marauding from Anthony Hernandez. He might have the best cardio in middleweight ever. In round 1, Pereira landed an alright little teep that seemed to hurt Hernandez early on, like in the first 30 seconds. Kind of followed it up with a little blitz and combo up against the cage. And Anthony recovered, and from there on out, it was completely his fight. Non-stop takedowns. If he didn't achieve them, he looked for position to get another one. And when he did have Pereira taken down, ground and pound constantly. He would look for a submission. If he didn't find it, he'd abandon it, start ground and pounding again. If he lost position, he'd try to secure it again, more ground and pounding. Never stopped. Constantly on the move and throwing shots or getting position. Like I said, probably has the best cardio in middleweight ever. And I feel like a fucking dumbass for not picking him. Pereira couldn't even make it barely to round 2. His cardio went out the window halfway through round 2. I don't know how he expected to go 5 rounds. And he almost did. He got cut really bad in round 5, and Herb called it off. Rightfully so. There's just no reason to let the cut get worse. I mean, he was just getting battered. He probably could have lasted till the bell, but there's no reason. He had nothing left. The score, when I'm recording this, is 212 strikes to 34. Fucking hell, it was a beatdown. Excellent performance for Anthony Hernandez. And I think he can go pretty far in the rankings. The only person off the top of my head that I can think of that would be a real problem for him is Drickus. And maybe Izzy, because Izzy's such a sharpshooter and could potentially land some good body shots, because he still is susceptible to body shots. Pereira did show that in round 1. But damn, man. Hell of a performance.